You- Hey, Kate, how are you doing today?
I am more blessed than I deserve. Drew, how are you?
Yeah, I can say the same thing, man. Thanksgiving was so nice. I got to spend a lot of time with a lot of people that I'm thankful for. And it just, it's always good to reflect and say, these are the important people in my life. These are who I'm thankful and grateful for, and then express those to those who are important to you.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
Yeah, it was you and I were just talking. It was like we feel so rested. I'm almost like ready for my second Thanksgiving nap at this point. It was just like 4 to 5 days of just doing nothing. And for you and I both, that's extremely rare. So it was nice.
Totally. Totally. Did you eat lots of good food?
Dude, so much good food. I had like two Thanksgiving dinners Thanksgiving Day. And I probably had like six different plates throughout the day of just like ton of Thanksgiving food. So yeah, it was
Love that.
it was kind of wild. I
Are
think my
you
stomach is still hurting from it.
are you a turkey guy or do you not like turkey?
Nah, I'm not a turkey guy, bro.
Same.
Ham all the way. Turkey
Ham,
is gross, man.
same. I agree.
Who
I agree.
who is the person that decided turkey as the freaking meat?
I don't
Just
know anybody who actually likes turkey. Every single person I talk to always says ham all the way.
yeah. I don't know. It's like it's a no-brainer. I don't know who decided turkey out of
I,
all those meats we could choose from. It's like the
seriously.
most bland, driest meat there is. Freaking awful. But anyway, Drew, do you want to start us off or would you like me to?
I can go ahead and kick us off. So just same as always, I always breach and preach on your just habits of investing. And I've kind of talked a little bit about volatility and how the market is being prompted up by or propped up by certain stocks. And so I actually brought today some statistics for you guys to listen to. But first, going over my three indexes, you got the S&P up last week about 0.86%, up year to date about 19%. The Dow Jones up about 1.15% last week and up about 6.63% year to date. And then the Russell 2000, again, those small cap companies up only about 0.14% last week and up year to date just under 3%. And so kind of what I want to hit on is what I've talked about the last few weeks is the S&P and the NASDAQ, which are two indexes, are heavily weighted by select companies. So their returns being 19% look fantastic. And everyone in the market says, oh, our economy's great. The stock market's doing great. It looks good. However, we have to take back and kind of tear back the curtain and really divert or really understand what's holding up these markets. And there's a phrase called the Magnificent Seven. No, I'm not talking about the movie, but I am talking about the seven stocks that have the largest weighted average within those two indexes. Within the NASDAQ alone, the seven stocks, it's going to be like Facebook, Google, Netflix, Nvidia, Amazon, Tesla, those stocks. There's another one. Oh, Nvidia. I don't know if I said Nvidia. Uh, but the seven stocks hold up the entire market and they represent about 48% of the actual S&P 500. So
Holy
out of
crap.
500 companies, these seven represent 50% of that index. I'll say
That's
that again.
crazy.
500 companies and these seven stocks out of 500 represent almost half of the market share. Crazy. And
Wow.
so these companies have had returns like Nvidia of 237% year to date. Meta or Facebook having over 168% return year to date. Tesla over 182% year to date. Oh no, excuse me, can't read my handwriting. 118%. Amazon up 72%, Google up 58%. So all these companies are having these massive returns and they hold a huge weighted average. So it makes it look and gives the appearance that the S&P is healthy and that we're having steady growth. I caution everyone to say, do not expect that to continue and that there's a very good chance that going into 2024, especially with the election year, there's going to be some volatility and potentially some downwards moves. So if you're close to retirement and you need this money, start thinking about different avenues to move this money and capture those gains. And if you're young and still planning for retirement long term, like I assume most of this audience is, just consistently distribute your funds. But honestly, I mean, and this is not financial advice, but it kind of is in a way, like, from a friend to friend. I would potentially consider holding off for the remainder of the year in your investments and just keep investing to the account, but don't actually buy anything within that yet. Because what you're going to see is all of those stocks that I just named are all stocks that we are super relevant in our lives today. And because it's the holiday season, they're all going to see exponential spending because, people are going to be buying the new Oculus for Facebook, or they're going to be surfing Google, and, advertising rates are going to go up because they're doing online shopping, Amazon, online shopping for Christmas and the holidays. Like, all of those things sort of are going to give the false implication that they're doing better. So, roundabout story to say, really, really keep your habits the same, but take a look and consult someone who can give you this advice within your specific situation.
I love it. Yeah, and I did the quick math. 7 divided by 500 is 1.4%. So 1.4% of the stocks within the S&P dictate 50%
Of the returns.
of the returns. So that's kind of
Crazy.
wild to think.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Drew. So basically what I took from it is, be aware that we're heading into a new year and that majority of these large indexes are weighted and averaged really on 1% of the companies that they, record, which is wild.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really specifically that S&P and the NASDAQ that are weighted. You see the more average returns with the Dow Jones and the Russell 2000 because they have a more holistic approach to the market, which is why the returns are like between 2 and 6%, which is about accurate to where I think we should be in the market.
Understood. So with those NASDAQ and S&P, because they hold some of those bigger entities, that's why we're seeing that 19% year over year increase. Yeah. Gotcha. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know. I mean, I knew obviously that the indexes had those companies, but I didn't realize that they made up that much of, the return for them. That's pretty crazy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so imagine, if one of those companies goes under or falls, it's going to be massive upheaval and craziness Apple alone represents over 10% of the S&P 500. It's pretty nuts when you allow a company that big to kind of dictate that much of an index. Pretty nuts.
No kidding. Holy crap.
So
Crazy. Well,
about you,
Drew,
man.
thank you. Yeah, so I'm looking at the Tucson market today. I'm looking at October of 2023. The average sales price was $335,000. This is the highest point we've been in for easily the past 10 years. It's not even close. The next closest point would be the month previous. So again, we've just been increasing for the past 10 years. The only time we had a decrease in pricing was the 2008, 2010 crash era, where prices were falling till about 2012. And then ever since 2012, they've been increasing year over year. When we look at homes for sale, we're down October 23 at about 1657, so 1,657. That's again some of the lowest points I'm looking at over the past 10 years. As far as days on market, we are looking at an average of 15. So just at 2 weeks is what it's taken to sell any home. That's again extremely low for the past 10 years with an average of between 40 and 60. So again, we're at 15. So just still well below the average. And then month supply, we are at 1.9 months in Tucson, and that's been consistent for the past 4 months since July of 2023. So it's been staying pretty consistent. Again, anything between 0 and 4 months is going to be a seller's market. Anything between 4 and 6 is a buyer and sellers. And then anything 6 months and above is a buyer's market. So we're at 1.9, still very well below what would be a basic average buyer sellers market of 4 and 6. So that's all I have for the Tucson market. There have not been many changes from when we last talked, just in regards to real estate. Probably the biggest thing that's happened, not necessarily locally, but on a macro scale, is the NAR lawsuit. So basically, the NAR was voted against in the Supreme Court for commission lawsuit. And so basically, what's going on is people are negotiating how real estate agents ought to be paid, specifically buyers agents. And so what comes of that is really up in the air. Ultimately, it's really may affect the consumer on the buy side. The consumers might start having to pay for their buyer agent services. That would probably be the biggest change that ends up happening, but that NAR is countering the lawsuit and all this. So it's going to be a while before anything actually happens. And then if and when it happens, it's going to be a while before it ever hits our markets, right? Because the timeline from when it happens to actually becoming a common type of thing, takes time. So even if it does happen, I can't imagine it's going to happen right away. And I think there's going to be, people are gonna have to get paid, right? Or else it just doesn't make sense to work. So there's going to be some sort of creative way or workaround for that to happen. But from a consumer standpoint, it doesn't really matter. Just know that if you're a consumer or you're a realtor, the fee in which a realtor charges to a consumer is always negotiable. So that's probably the biggest thing to understand. If you didn't already know that, most people, I mean, it seems like don't. So if you're a consumer using a realtor, just know that their services are negotiable. If you're using a buyer's agent, they're most likely getting paid through the seller. And then if you're hiring a realtor to sell your home, their price that they, charge you is always negotiable. So just know that. That's probably the biggest call to action.
I love that. I love that. And the last video that we did, you had talked about Lighthouse. Is there any more Lighthouse funds left, or did we run out?
From what I know, I believe we're out, in the sense that most of the funds have been reserved up until this point already. So not very shocking, because we kind of figured that it was going to go, end up that way. From my understanding, all the funds have been reserved for about a week now. So that 25 million was gone within like 2 weeks, just freaking mind blowing. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that come the new year, they'll probably do another sort of lighthouse program or something like that. But we have a lot of clients that were able to use that and successfully get into home, and who are actively using those funds now. So we'll make sure everyone's posted as far as if those funds are, coming back, or if there's any other programs out there like it. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any clients or you yourselves are trying to buy, I can tell you right now, there is always a program out there that's going to work for you. It's just a matter of getting a hold of the right people and doing your homework, trying to find the right program. But I guarantee you there's always going to be a program out there for you. So if you're a realtor or a consumer, feel free to message me or Drew, and we'll get you hooked up.
Love that. Love that. So I think, we got two last things we wanted to talk about. That first one being NGRN, and that's our speaker coming in, and it's going to be in 2 Fridays from now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it the 15th or the 16th?
I believe it's the 15th. Let me pull up my calendar though.
Wonderful.
But yeah, you want to introduce our
Yeah.
speaker?
So the speaker is going to be the one and only Derek Polder, from Cross Country, right? Cross Country? Yes, Cross Country. And he is going to be talking about a bunch of different things. We're not entirely sure what his actual lineup and his agenda is going to look like, but he is a powerful, powerful speaker, one of the core guys. So he is definitely going to have a lot of positive things to say. And he's built a really successful business in a fairly short amount of time. So coming up and actually, having the conversation with such a mover and shaker and powerhouse in our community we're lucky to have him there. So
For sure. And I know, I mean, Yeah, just to confirm, it is on December 15th from 5:30 to 8:30 at the Sands Club. We'll most likely be meeting in the foyer, same as always, and Derek will get a chance to speak. And I know, Drew, you can speak from experience. I can, definitely speak from experience that Derek is one of those guys, as successful as he is, always makes time to sit down with you and meet with you if you ask him. And you just really get to pick his brain, learn more about his story, his background, how he built that successful company. And he'll give you the thing I like about Derek is that he'll give you very actionable steps every time you meet with him. So
Okay.
it's not like you just meet with him, he's a cool guy, he's successful, whatever, on to the next person. But he'll sit down, he'll learn about your goals, what you're trying to do. And then from his experience, he'll explain his thought process and, his thoughts on what you should be doing, and then actionable steps to actually start doing something. So if you guys are maybe in a rut in your business, or you're not where you want to be in your business, come to the meetup, come talk to Derek. And I guarantee you, if you can't talk to him that night or get a hold of him, you can meet with him, after the meetup, sit down with him for lunch and just pick his brain. You won't walk away from that meeting with nothing tangible. Like, he will give you something that you can start implementing right away, or he'll give you a goal to get after. And a quick example is I met with him, man, it's probably a year and a half now, maybe a year ago, but I sat down with him and learned more about his business and what he was doing. And he had told me that uh, when you do 2 deals for 2 months consecutively, that's the minute that you hire an assistant. And I had no idea to do that. So after I did my first 2 deals for the first 2 months back to back, that's when I fired. That's when I hired my first assistant. And from then, so now I have a transaction coordinator and I have a VA assistant. So I basically have 2 people working for me now, but I didn't know that, moving forward when I was at that point in my, career in business. So when he gave me that thought process and that goal, it really gave me something to get after. And so I've always appreciated that, with Derek, is he'll give you tangible and actionable steps that you can take after meeting with him. So it's definitely worth your guys' time if you can make it out on the 15th of December.
Absolutely. And it kind of piggyback and echo what Kate had said, like he is 1,000% that he will give you an action step, and it doesn't even have to be in the real estate market. Like, he's a lender, but he's helped out a realtor, being Kate, amongst multiple others. I'm a financial advisor, and I sat down with him about 2 years ago, and he gave me step by step of how I could learn more of my business, what types of events I could go to, how I should construct my business. And he gave me like 13 or 14, I have them written down, actionable steps in 30 minutes that I could apply to myself. And even just simple things like join Toastmasters. And it's really, really helped my business substantially. In fact, I kept up with some of the actionable items that he gave me and wrote him a letter back, because I actually saw substantial growth in my business because of some of the things that he gave me. So I completely agree. And kind of to segue from that into our final topic of, goal setting and making sure that you are, staying consistent, staying on top of things. Now that it's the end of the year and we've officially passed Thanksgiving, so we were basically coasting into the end of the year. A lot of the people that I know, a lot of people in commission-based industries, they're not really selling much of anything because people have already solidified their homes, or they're going to stay where they're at. They already have their finances solidified, or they're not going out and buying a bunch of new stuff that our network within the NGRN tends to sell. And so because of that, I see a lot of us sort of slack and coast into the end of the year. And so, our big takeaway and what Cade and I were talking about before we started recording is now is the time to look back as the year has passed and analyze what worked versus what didn't work. Analyze, what sort of strategies that you put into place that you followed through on, and what you didn't. What can you do better? And then set some goals for yourself, personal and work related goals. So that way you have a clear cut goal starting into January that you can just hit the ground running and you've laid the pavement, you've laid the groundwork. You don't have to start from a ditch and dig your way out. You can start at zero and just go. So, anything to add on that, Cade?
No, I love the way that you worded that, because often as business owners, I think we can get caught up in trying to do the right thing when all we really got to be doing is doing something, right? And so I love the way that you worded that. Figure out, okay, in my business, what do I know for a fact that worked this year? So as an example, because for some reason I learn better when there's examples. For me, I know for a fact, like 6 or 7 of my clients that I helped purchase a home this year, I know for a fact where they came from. And I know for a fact what it took to get those clients. So what I am going to be doing, Drew, thank you so much, is I'm going to say, okay, that worked really well this year. I'm going to definitely be doing that next year. But not only am I going to be doing it next year, how can I make it better? How can I make it even worth more of my time? And so that's what my focus is going to be, by the end of this year, is mapping out, okay, this worked. How can I make it even better going into next year? And then really get after it. Something that I am trying to do is double my business every single year. So my first year, I hit a specific amount. My second year, I doubled that. And now going into my third year full time, I'm trying to double this current year. And so that's been a good kind of process for me anyway, of just trying to double and kind of hit that scalability in my business. But ultimately it comes from doing, Drew, what you mentioned, of just figure out what works and then continually and consistently do that and tweak it to make it better as you go, but don't change what you're doing, right? Don't completely shift and start doing something else that you don't know will work or not. Just do what you know works and start doing it consistently and better than anyone else, and you're going to crush it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, the last thing to really hit on that is I agree with you in the fact that same thing for me. Lunch and learns were my big thing that worked very well for me. I got a lot of clients. I got a lot of visibility and credibility from doing lunch and learns.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to continue that. But my return ratio could have been higher, right? I think, to be full transparent with you, I think I probably on average got, I know exactly how many, 1.8 clients per lunch and learn that I did. Right. But in attendance on average, there was 6. So that means I was converting about just under 30% of the client, just under 30% of the people that actually came and sat down. I know I can get that number higher because if they wouldn't have spent their time at the lunch and learn, if it wasn't something that they were needing to talk about or interested in learning about.
Yeah.
And so, looking at that perspective and saying, okay, now I need to really solidify and change that around. How can I do it? Is going to be some way that I can, better the lunch and learn experience and increase my reach and ability to get new clients. But the best way to discuss these things is to coming to an event like NGRN, because we're all in the same position and we all are already trying these different things. So why waste your time trying something that Cade has already done and it didn't work for him, when you can look at what Cade has done and it has worked for him, or look at me for what I've done and it has worked for me. Don't reinvent the wheel, just perfect it. And so coming to these events will help you. You're going to be in a group of professionals that are really in the same mindset of doing it. And they're all going to be kind of looking at the forefront of 2024 and saying, how can we better ourselves and what worked, what didn't? And it's a perfect way to learn about some new strategies and new ways that you can increase your business.
I love it. Yes. Come out, everybody, December 15th, 5:30 to 8:30 at the U of A Sands Club. We're going to have Derek Polder speaking. We're going to have a ton of great people. Oh my gosh, we have such a good group of people. It's ridiculous. So come out, meet some really cool, authentic people who want to help each other and, start off 2024 strong.
That's it. I love it. All right, Cade. Well, dude, I will see you in 2 weeks from now. But until then, have a great one.
You too, brother. Talk soon.